Hey guys, Jono from Ecommerce SEO. I thought it timely to just do a quick video on H tags, and thought it'd be interesting to go and look at two of the biggest e-commerce stores in the world, obviously Amazon, and then a store called Zalando, which is Europe's largest e-commerce store. You can see if we go and look at their traffic, we can see that they're at sort of 8 million organic traffic per month. So one of the largest in Europe. And I thought it'd just be good to look at the way they set up their H tags. So we had a question in the Facebook group the other day about a student had been, or a member of the group had been looking at some competitor pages or competitor sites in Google and seeing that their H tags setup was all over the place and they were still doing well. So I think the comment was that some didn't have any H1 tags, some had H2 tags as a top hierarchy tag on a page. The thing is with H tags obviously have a hierarchy, H1 through to H6. And H1, it makes sense to have that as the most important tag on your page, and also it should be in the highest point of your page, and then underneath that you have the next level of the hierarchy. So if you have a H1 as your most important tag, and then you can have H2 tags beneath that, and you can have more than one H2 tag, and then you would move to H3 tags for like a subsection of a H2, etc. So the hierarchy works from top to bottom. Now, in Shopify, sometimes there's some themes that don't have a H1 tag on the homepage. Sometimes their collections and their products don't even have H1 tags, which I don't understand why developers do that, but it happens. What we generally do is then have those tags changed correctly to the correct H1s. But if there's not a H1 tag on the page, what Google will do is then come and look at the next H tag down the hierarchy as the most important tag on the page. So a H2 tag on its own as the top level hierarchy is generally okay. You just don't want to have then a H1 at, say, the bottom of the page, which with a generic term like click here or something, which I've seen that before as well, because Google comes in and gets confused about what is the most important tag on the page. So the point is have that hierarchy and have your top H1 tag as your first H tag on the page. And in the most common sense is to have the H1 obviously, and then work down that hierarchy. So I thought it'd be interesting to look at Amazon and Zalando. Now you just got to keep in mind though that these behemoths, these massive stores, when they get to a certain point, they get away with a lot. So they can do things technically not as correct as we might want to do them, and they still do really well. They've got so much trust, so much power, so many links, everything else going on, so much natural traffic coming to them that that can override sometimes the technical deficiencies. And I'm sure that the developers and SEO guys at Amazon have looked at their setup and go, well, it's not 100% correct, but is it worth spending that time and extra money and potential problems to go and fix this small thing to make it 100% technically correct? Are we going to get the return, or do we just keep on rolling on? So let's have a look at Amazon. So we've got, here's a category page. I'm just going to look at category page and product pages. So we've got a bit of text here that looks like a heading tag. I'm not sure whether it is. We've got a heading here, which is like the main title of the page. So I'm assuming that's going to be a H tag, and then we've got all our products. So I've just opened up the source code here. On Amazon, you get this big white block before you get any code. I'm sure there's a reason for that. I don't know why, but all Amazon pages are like that. So I've opened up the source code, and now I'm just going to go and look for the H1. Okay, so here is a H1 tag, and it's bestsellers in beauty. So that's the H1. You can see the start of the H1 over here. That's a H1 tag, and I can see, you can't see it on my screen, but on the right hand side of my screen it's highlighting any other H1 tags, and there's none. So there's no other H tags on that page. So Amazon only has one H1 tag on its category pages. So now let's go and look at Zalando. I'm going to open that up in a browser. And we'll go to a category page. Let's go to sport. It's the home page of sport. We'll go to the view source, and we're going to do the same thing and look for our H1s. Okay, so I can see we have, here's our H1 tag here. Now where does it start? Okay, so on this particular page, the H1 is actually a promotion, our summer sale 50% off. So that's their H1 tag there. But let's look at a sub collection of sportswear for men. So here, and this is like a standard collection page where you've got, or a category page where you've got products on here. And let's go look at that one. View page source, Control F and our H1. Okay, there's our H1 tag and it's men's sportswear. So I'll just double check that there's no more. Men's sportswear, that's it there, and it's the only H1 on the page. So that is the H1 title there. Now let's look and see if there's any H2s. There's no H2 tags on that page. There are H3s. And no H4s, no H5s, and there's H6. So the H3s, there's only, oh no, there's a few more, there's about, yeah, there's a heap of H3s. If you scroll on down, keep going. So a lot of this sort of information, I think these are H3s down here. What was the other one we wanted to look at? H4, was it? Or H5? H6. The H6 is a filter, just a filter tab. So it'll be up here somewhere. Might be one of these filters or whatever. But anyway, the point is we've got one H1, and that's obviously the most important tag on the page. So we'll go back to Amazon. Just check if we've got any H2s. There's no H2s. I think I went through this already. Yeah, so no other H tags on the collection page. So that's interesting. Now we'll look at a product, and we'll also look at a product of Zalando. Okay, so you'd expect this to be our H1 product title. Go to page source. Big block of white text again. Okay, so immediately we've got 3 H1 tags. I think there's actually more than that. So we've got choose from eligible subscribe and save products from once a month to every 6 months. We'll send you a reminder. No, that's actually, yeah, skip or cancel at any time. Choose how often you want it delivered. Save on auto deliveries. So wherever that is on the page, I'm not sure, might be down here somewhere. But that's interesting that they have other H1s that are irrelevant to the product, but I'm sure there's a reason for it. But they've created those extra H1s. But then if we scroll on down and we can find our next H1, if I can find it. And there it is there, and it's the product title. So they have the product title, and it's at the top of the page. So the theory is with this sort of setup where there's more than H1, which is not something you would recommend doing, but Amazon can get away with it, as I mentioned before, is that the first H1's at the very top of the page. So this is the first H1 the Google bots are going to see. So they're more than likely taking note of this H1 and then either ignoring or allocating less value to those other H1s. Okay, so let's now have a look at the other H tags. So there's some H2s. Look, there's quite a lot of H2s. And a lot of these are relevant to the product, frequently bought together, sponsored products, have a question, etc. H3. The H3 looks like there's a heap of them. It looks like they're related products. H4, some more irrelevant stuff. There's some H5s. No H6. What are the H5s? H5s are prices, it looks like. and some other content. So again, just really focusing on the H1 as the most important element of the page, even though Amazon has more than one H1. Okay, now let's look at Zalando. Go and have a look at our source code. And we'll look for H1 again. And the H1 is Heron Top, which is the product title, so that all makes sense. But these guys have no other H1s. So that's the only H1 on the page. Now let's look at H2. H2 tags, chevron down, size. So yeah, some other elements on the page here. I'm just trying to find out. Oh, it might be these ones here. Size fit delivery. Let's have a look. There's quite a lot of H2s on this page. So complete the look, that's a H2. But again, it's really only the H1 that's doing any of the heavy lifting, and the rest is just sort of generic type content. But this is a good example where you can have a lot of H2s on the page and get away with it fine. Again, very big site, can get away with it a little bit, but it's not obviously causing any issues. Now let's look at H3. There's a heap of H3, help and contact, vouchers, etc. H4, no H4s. Some H5s, material care, details, and no H6s. Okay, so just thought it'd be interesting to go through. So the key takeaway with this, I think, is H1s are definitely present, which you would expect. H1s at the top of the page on categories and and product pages, which you would expect. Apart from Amazon's product pages, all the others only have one H1. And then they're not too concerned about that. They have the hierarchy of a H2 and then a H3, but they're not too concerned if the H2 tags, H3 tags, H4 tags below the H1 are just a little bit generic and not so relevant to the actual page. So along with their URLs, their SEO titles, and their H1 tag, it's doing a lot of the heavy lifting for them. Okay, hope that provided a little bit of insight. It's always interesting to go and look at other stores, especially the biggest in the world. Thanks.